What's happening, people? Hope you're all well. Welcome back to the show. I'd love to say that I'm feeling 100% and I'm back, but I'm not, if I'm honest with you. I'm still not quite over what I've had. But to be fair, it's actually a hell of a lot better than it was last week. Thanks to Lawless for stepping in, but I must say that he's not with us tonight because now he is unwell and has been in bed all day, bless him, and just hasn't had the energy to jump on. Tobes will be with us. He's going to be joining us around about 7 o'clock. So, we can talk about his amazing transfer window. What a circus that is over there at Spurs. Jesus Christ, absolutely hilarious. Can't stop laughing at what happened there. I literally couldn't believe when I heard the Matt Doherty thing. I was like, this is actually hilariously funny. But there we go. I am joined by Errol. I've got Dan United back. I've got Lewis and I've got Pete. Obviously, Tobes will be jumping on as well. We're going to talk about the transfer window now that it's shut and then obviously the weekend's games because football is going to be back. It feels like the transfer window has put a hold on football. It's weird, man. Even though last night I was watching Newcastle, I was still thinking, why does no one actually care about this game? It's because the transfer deadline day is there. I mean, obviously Pete did and all of his fans, but it was weird watching that thinking, is this actually like a friendly or is this actually bizarre? But there we go. We're going to talk to Pete about it in a minute and get his thoughts of it because I'm sure he's delighted. And before we do that, I've got to go to Lewis. Then we're going to touch on Arsenal because Chelsea and Arsenal were the talk of the town, really. Let's be fair. Yesterday, start with you, Lewis. Might as well combine it because of the Jorginho thing as well. But we'll start with Chelsea's incomings, then talk about Chelsea's outgoings. I can't keep up, mate. I say this every week to you. It feels like you've signed another 3 or 4 players every time we speak. But
you signed someone today as well.
I mean, how do you sign someone today when it's shut? It's just what's going on now. It's mad, isn't it?
Well, he's finding more loopholes, bro.
Fucking hell. How many loopholes? How many loopholes can Chelsea find? Christ.
I don't know. From what everyone was telling me, he was just some clueless American who didn't understand the sport. Suddenly he's finding glitches left, right, and center. I can't lie. Any doubts that I had about the board and the ownership, and I had very little anyway, but they're all thrown away because this is like 2 to 3 windows worth of work all done in one. And the fact that we managed to put Enzo Fernandez in at the final hour when we were dealing with one of the toughest owners I've heard, or maybe negotiators in Rui Costa. Like, he was just refusing outright to listen to anything. And then we get him in with 6 installments. The first one, I think, is 40 million that Benfica don't even receive because it goes to River Plate instead. It's ridiculous. They keep finding ways around things and they're just blowing my mind. But yeah, they've given us about 4 or 5 first teamers off the bat. I didn't expect that in 1 month, but you lot keep doing your thing. They're saying they're going to do the same thing in the summer. We're going to have another window like this. I don't know, but I've been depressed for so many months. I feel energetic again. For the first time in ages, like I can look forward to the future. We're still going to be shit this season. I don't really expect too much. But next season, with a second window like this, even if we got 1 game a week, like that would make me even more confident with where we could finish in the league. Because if we're building a team of this level and they all perform to what their expectation is, there's no reason why we can't compete for everything for next season. So yeah, I feel great. I feel really good.
Yeah, man, I know. Like, I was with Matisse on Monday. He was smiling and he's just smirking. I'm like, listen, come on. Like, before we have opinions on it, right? Just try to explain how you're getting away with this in terms of the financial fair play. And the reason I say that is because Roman left you in like 0 debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had the transfer embargo, so basically you were allowed to save money on that and then go nuts. I don't think anybody, including yourself, Lewis, you've been very honest, expected you to go this nuts. But is that why there's no issues in terms of the financial fair play? Or do you have to at some point go, okay, we need to stop spending now because we will get done? Like, where's your thoughts on that, bro?
It's meant to be because of amortization, because we're giving everyone 8-year deals. It means that on a yearly basis, it's a very low amount that you're paying per year. And that's what's worked to our benefit. That's why we've been able to buy so many players. FIFA are changing that in the summer. So you can only sign players onto a max of 5 years. So we won't be able to do that in the summer. But that's half the reason why we went in so heavy now. We saw an opening. We saw that we could do this. We wouldn't have much opportunities to. That's why we kept pursuing all of our top targets. And we were just very, very successful and willing to pay whatever they asked at whatever cost. So, yeah, I think we've done a very good job so far. We won't have the same luck in the summer, but I don't think it's going to stop us spending as well. I think that means we're not going to buy 5 to 6, 7 new players unless we clear out about another 7 first off. And I think we're still going to do that anyway. So, to be honest, I don't even know what to expect, but I just expect a lot of new players and a completely new squad. And you guys know this has been everything that I've asked for. I've said the squad's the problem. We need a rebuild. We're getting a rebuild, and we're getting it within a year. I didn't expect it to take this long, but big up Todd Bowley, big up Igbali, the whole board, Joe Shields, Paul Winstanley, all of them, big them up because they've pulled this club right back from under the mud. And it's amazing. We're in 10th and I don't care. I couldn't care.
Well, listen, you're still in the mud, bro. You've got to actually get out of this situation first. Let's hope that it don't all gel and it goes wrong. That's all I'm saying. But let's see. Let me bring someone else. Let me bring you in, man, because, as a Man United fan, you've spent money. As an Arsenal fan, I've spent money. Pete and Errol can sit there, to be fair, and say that they've spent money, but it's nowhere been near as much as this. This is just madness. I never thought we'd see this in football, if I'm honest with you, and perhaps I was a bit naive to expect it would come around this quick, but it has. I want to get your thoughts on Chelsea's transfer window, some of the players that you'd like to be looking out for now, and whether you think Potter can actually get these teams gelling, because that's a big arse now. He's just been dumped a load of players. Go on and do what you think you can with it. Like, what's your serious thoughts on this one, Dan?
Well, I mean, I suppose I'd go to Lewis with this. What's the expectation going to be on Potter now? With all this money spent, these players that have come in, I get, and I'm a massive Potter fan. I've said that on this show several times, but the money that's coming in, the players that are coming in for the money that's been spent, you'd have to expect that the board are going to be expecting, I'm not saying instant results because there is obviously got a bit of time for them to gel, blah, blah, blah. But they're going to be wanting some serious results over the next 18 months. So the question is, do you agree, Lewis, or do you think he'll be given time? Because the worry is you bring in all these players. We've seen it so many times with managers. If it doesn't work, they're gone. So I suppose, counter to you, what do you think?
I think for this season, maybe in the Champions League, if we get the right bracket, you could maybe try and be a little bit daring in that competition, like it's the only one that we're still left in. So why not? In the league, like I couldn't care less. And I don't think the board do either. Just stay up. And after that, like we'll rebuild and we'll be serious next season. Right now, all I want to see is progress. I want to see the team perform better. I want to see us look more like a unit. I want to see a discernible style of play and some results. Hell, if we put ourselves back into the top 4 race, brilliant. But I have no expectations for that. And if we don't make top 4, I don't care. We could lose to Fulham on Friday. I couldn't care less.
Whose signings are all these players?
Exactly what I was about to ask. Exactly.
They are the managers. The manager has involvement. That's why I'm a lot more confident in these signings, because the old ones weren't. And they've all hit the ground running too. Look at our defense as Badia Shields gone in. Look at Mudryk and Felix. Sorry.
Now, do you feel Alas on man like Tuchel though? Because he didn't even get no windows like this. He got one player like Lukaku that obviously didn't hit the ground running, didn't do what he's needed to do, and ultimately next man now's come in and he's literally just opened the floodgates to him. Do you not feel a little bit sorry for Tuchel in that sense? Do you know what I mean? To what could have been potentially.
Definitely, but Tuchel also had a massive falling out with this board. And look what they're doing. I think they're justified, personally. Like, I could criticize them all they want. They have done an unbelievable job since coming in. I do think Tuchel's harshly treated for everything that he did for Chelsea, but Bowley weren't here for all of that. Bowley's only been here about 6 months. He weren't involved in any of that. And from what I was hearing, there was just a lot of fallouts between them and poor communication between Tuchel and the board. Now I'm seeing Graham Potter in here. There's no communication issues. And look at the players that are coming in. And look at the performances that they're having. I feel so much more confident with this squad. I do wish Tuchel might have had them a little bit earlier. Maybe if he had them in the start, he would have managed things a bit differently. It was probably because he was a bit comfortable there. But it's the way football is. Sometimes it's a bit unfair like that. Tuchel will be fine at wherever club he goes to next.
That could only happen to Chelsea. that level of, you have a world-class manager, you bin him off because you're just like, fuck it, we don't want him, we want the next, bring the next one in, and then all of a sudden you're about to throw £1 billion at this next manager just so we can get it right. Like,
I worry about Potter. I'm so worried about Potter because I think, for me as an outside fan, like I agree, Lewis, they probably will with the league this season say, look, it is what it is. Oh, I'm gone again. Can you hear me still?
Still here,
yeah, we can hear you.
Right, I'll stay on this until I get my camera back on. I still think that next season, if you don't start the season as I think the board will expect you to start, which is with the players that you've got now, the squad you've got now, really, really hitting the ground running, I think you could go quite early in the season next season.
I
We'd
don't
have
know,
to
man.
play terribly for that to happen, but I think they're really going to give him a lot of time. He's got this season. He's probably got next season as well. He's on a 6-year contract. So it's like you got to invest in him for at least 2 years. And I think he'll get the opportunities to do it. It's too early to tell whether he'll be the one to potentially take us to a title or anything. Even if he's the one that builds this squad and then we potentially move on to someone better, I don't think that looks bad in Potter's way either, because it still shows that he's really good at building good teams.
Yeah.
I don't think that this. You need to look at what Todd Boehly expects of Graham Potter. Is Todd Boehly's expectation that Graham Potter can take Chelsea to a Champions League win this season and top 4? If it is, yeah, you're right, Dan. He's probably going to go, because I don't think that's going to happen. If the expectation is that Chelsea finish as high as they can up the league, progress as best they can, and try to finish as respectively as they can, and then it was all on next season for another summer window, and then you go for X, Y, or Z, then I think you're going to be looking at more realistically. Diego Simeone looks like he's probably going to be off at Atletico Madrid. If I was to put my money on the next manager, it probably would be somebody like that, because I think his CV is like, let's just win now. Whether you look at the players that they've gone for, they're very young, so they might not be a team that wins now. So it depends where Todd Boehly wants to go. If Todd Boehly wants to go with, let's build a project, I think Graham Potter can do that. So that's the way I see it. Pete, what's your thoughts, bro?
First and foremost, everyone thought Newcastle were going to be bad. Jesus Christ, Chelsea had just come out the blocks, and actually, this is the surprise for me, because I thought with the new ownership, it'd be a new model. It doesn't seem to be the way. Chelsea always, when they haven't won for a while, they always spend big, and they did under Abramovich. They put their money where their mouth was. They got the manager that they thought was going to get them that success back, and it looks like they're doing that. And I look. Most of the managers that Chelsea have had at least 2 years. They've had 2 years. Even the Mourinho's, when he came back, got a season. Conte was similar, and they get that opportunity to have a window, even a couple, to put their team together and then go for it. So I think they'll at least give Potter that opportunity. And you know what? They'd be mad not to, because he is a good coach. Everyone says that that's been coached under him. He's a good coach, and he would improve players and get the best out of them. But he needs his squad of players that he's chosen to get the best out of them. And I think they'll do that. But it does seem like to me that they're going to keep that same cycle of a 2 or 3 year stint. I think if it gets to 2 years and they haven't won anything, and into their third season they're not progressing how they would expect to, then I think they'll put the hammer down, unless they go on a mad, crazy bad run in which they'll pull the plug a little bit earlier. But I think, look, Chelsea are going to put money at this to get back to where they are, because you know what? Since Abramovich has come in, that's what they've done. If they've not been winning trophies, they put their money in to buy the players to get them there, and that's what they're doing right now. It's just that, look, nobody expected, Dan, you said it right at the start, nobody expected Chelsea to spend the sort of money that they have. And you know what? They've done it, and it is what it is. Those loopholes, I think every club in the Premier League is looking at those loopholes now to see where they can get in there, and hoping that FIFA don't put that in place too early in the summer. I think you might see a couple of early big deals being done.
They've already said you can't put players on more than 5 years, haven't they? They've already said that. Straight away.
They've already ruined it because they snitched about it. Everyone could have done it. It's like, oh, why are Chelsea doing it? This happened for years, bro. No one said nothing about us giving Kepa a 7-year contract back in 2018.
Yeah, 'cause
Remember
it's
2012 when you lot gave Pardew a 7-year contract?
No, Pardew was it 8-9 years?
8 years.
8-9 years, and no one said nothing then.
It finished a few years ago.
They could have cheated the system so easily, but now they've snitched and it's closed up. Now you're going to have to pay above Enzo's fee if you want to get a midfielder that's looked up at that level.
You fucked it all over again, bro, and I'm pissed.
You shouldn't have snitched.
I'm not going to lie, bro. Do you know what? Do you know what's interesting though, from outside, look at it perspective again? And my take is, and I'll ask you because obviously you're closer to the Chelsea ground than any of us are going to be. Did you see that it was meant to be contractual that Bowley had to spend up to £1 billion in the first 18 months of the takeover? Okay, so if you could
18 months
within the first 18 months of the takeover,
I thought it was meant to be like 10 years or something.
No, I thought it was or from what I remember reading it, I'm sure it was like in the first 18 to 2 years of the takeover, he had to spend £1 billion on the playing team. So
that makes more sense then. All right, that makes a lot of sense.
In my head, it makes me think it's great that he's building a young team now, but is he building a young team to sustain it for 2 to 3 years to see them develop into their prime? Or will he, if it doesn't work, will he go again? So if it's a contractual thing, I've got no problem with him having to honor it and having to spend that money. Nobody else could compete. He'd have to invest that level of money into the club if he wanted to own it. If that was his genuine interest, he'd have to spend that dough. The other thing for me is what happens when it's not an obligation? Will he still have that appetite? Will he have that Roman Abramovich mentality to, if we're not potentially successful on the pitch, we'll reinvest another 300, 400 million. So in this moment, I can see why you're gassed because you're getting a new, young, refreshed team. What ceiling will this new, young team have? And if it gets to a ceiling where it doesn't bring the ultimate rewards, does he then have the appetite? And as rival fans, we've just got to sit on our hands for the next 2 years and just hope and wait and see. And that's all we can do. We can't do nothing. We can't interfere. We've just got to hope and wait and see. And come the 2-year mark, I'm just hoping that he doesn't really want to go back in with this big deep pockets and he thinks actually we'll spend within our means and we'll spend what we earn and all that kind of bollocks. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
I do think it will be like that because this has just been necessary because like I've said, the squad is a mess. It's needed this. I didn't expect it to be this quickly, but this was still very necessary. There are a couple of risks, obviously, because you're buying young players, but that all depends on whether they work or not, and that's speculative. If it doesn't work, I don't think Chelsea would let it get to a point where you need an entire squad rebuild again. I think the idea is that you build a team and then you still rely on the academy, but then you fill it up with little holes here and there. The problem is we never did that. We've signed our first midfielder since 2019. Our attack has just been constant messes. We've let 2 of our 3 best centre-backs go for free. There's just been poor decisions made at the top that has kind of flown under the radar because we've still won trophies, but it's been very disastrous to what our future is, and that's why we're in this situation now. I don't think that they're going to be like that because we've brought in directors of football that we didn't have before. There's actual football brains in the board instead of people who care more about the finances. So we look like we're in a much better position for the long term.
So you're confident that it's sustainable then, is basically what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah.
Lewis, sorry, go on, Pete. Go on, mate.
I was going to say one thing. I'm just going to read out the players that you've signed.
How long have you got, lad?
I've only got an hour.
Hey, Dan's got a match at 8 o'clock, you know.
This was a list that I was expecting.
And we'll get the Sky record on. Get Sky record on.
Alexa.
Right, you got David Fofana, 11 million. You got Benoit Badiashile, 34. Andre Santos, good player. We were linked with him as well, 11 million. João Felix, 11 million. Loan, I think it was. Mudryk, 88 million. Madueke from PSV, 30 million. Malo Gusto, brilliant right back, 30 million. Enzo Fernandez, 106 million. The question I've got for you, Lewis, is that you can only have 3 of them in your Champions League squad. Who are you going to choose out of that list? Because you can only improve 3 players. You can only change 3 players mid-season. So you're looking at that list and you would want all of them in there or the vast majority of them. Who are you going to choose?
I think it would be Enzo, Mudryk, and João Felix. And just focus on the midfield and the attack. Like Badiashile, I get it. He should be in there, and it's a bit peak that he isn't. But there is only 3 spots. Fofana's coming back from injury. So we've got 3 competent defenders. And if Koulibaly turns up, then we've got 4, I guess. But I think that would be enough anyway.
Lewis, I was going to ask you this anyway, mate. Smoky Settings has just come in with it. Lewis, who's your starting 11 with this new team? I was going to ask you that. And on top of it, who are the ones that are most excited you? Because obviously you mentioned Enzo, Mudryk, Badiashile. There's quite a few. I can't keep up. So who was your starting 11 be now when everyone's fit? And who are the ones that you're looking forward to seeing, man?
Dan, you've said it wrong, mate. Todd will find a loophole. They'll be able to start 18 in the bloody game.
Hey, what? I won't even judge you if you do. Starting 11. Let's go Kepa in goal with everyone fit, right? Yeah, James, Cucurella, Silva, Badiashile, Zakaria, Kovacic, and Enzo, and then Mudryk, Felix, and Madueke on the wings.
No Sterling. Okay, interesting.
Actually, yeah, I don't forget Sterling. Madueke. Yeah, that will do that.
Dan, sorry, can I just ask a question to Lewis?
Of course.
Lewis, with all of this coming on, we've touched on it in previous weeks with a couple of young players that have come in and done really well, actually, thrown in and had to do a job. Do you fear now with this, with the amount of players that you're bringing in, that this is almost cutting off that pathway now for these younger players to come in, get games and give a good account of themselves? Because, I mean, the running joke's always been for a long time, hasn't there, that Chelsea have 30, 40, 50 players out on loan. I'm not saying that's the exact number, but do you think that this cuts off a clear pathway for the lads who have sort of worked through the youth teams, gone into the under-23s, and now they see this and they think, what am I doing?
I don't feel like Potter's the type that wouldn't give youth players a chance if they deserve the opportunity. Like Lewis Hall, for example, has had so much game time this season, and he's justified it as well. I think like we always use the loan army and everything, and we're trying to find feeder clubs as well. That's one of the things that we're looking for in the summer. So I think that will be an option for them. If there's any gems that pop up, I do think that they'd be given an opportunity. Now, will they be able to get through against what we'd call potentially elite players or where they should be at if they develop to that level? I don't know, but Chelsea's always been like that, where it is just survival of the fittest. If you're good enough, you'll play. So I think they get the opportunities to show themselves. If not, we just do what we always do. Loan them out, let them develop, sell them on for a profit. Use that to buy other players. Yeah. Same thing we always do. So regardless, we'd still be fine.
Do you know why you spend that money?
Do you not think that you'll miss out on these potential gems, though? That there could be some real like hot prospects that get the option to go to Chelsea or an Arsenal or a Spurs, and they think
they already have, and I think they will. Like they've already missed some. For me, I think Chelsea's youth is superb. Look at the players that have come through, particularly at the back. And I think when they're now looking at the back and you're thinking they need defenders, you've had Mark Guehi, Levi Colwell. I know he's obviously still about. You've got what's his name, Nathan Ake, Livramento, Lamptey. The list goes on. It's like, wow, you got Lewis Hall.
Well. These are quality players, aren't
they? Yeah, academy.
I think so.
Guys, they'll still churn these players through because unlike, and I'm not saying they're not paid well elsewhere, but they get paid very, very well at Chelsea. And they know they'll be on loan here or there. And they'll know if they don't get an opportunity in the first team, that someone else in the Premier League or abroad will pick them up. So they know... because of the history of Chelsea's. Look, let's be honest, really quickly. It was only really Lampard that booked the trend because that process, that academy was always locked off.
No, Terry, Lampard was West Ham.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, yeah.
No. What I'm saying is when Lampard took charge.
Oh, sorry.
When Lampard was the manager.
He booked the trend. He took charge and was manager because he brought through one or two young players. He had to. But this is
I like that Chelsea model. Bring that Chelsea model back. I like it.
It was done. It was done through necessity, not because
Roadrunner FC when they come through. What I'm good.
And that's the thing. So actually, other than Lampard when he was manager of Chelsea, they've always kind of discarded the academy, sent them on loan, and then sold them off. This is why Chelsea are allowed to spend the type of money and get away with it because there's no better team, I would say, in Europe that make money off their players like Chelsea, whether they've bought them and then sold them back off and made profit, or through their youth academy. There's no club that do it better than Chelsea. And they are the model in terms of if you want to raise money on the players you've got, you look at Chelsea's model. So yeah, take it, of course, because you've earned the right. You've got those players in, you've developed them, you've sold them off, you've made profit. Fair play.
Oh, also, Lewis, is it true that Ziyech's still at Paris Airport, just hoping for a miracle?
He got screwed over differently. We sent the wrong documents 3 times to PSG.
3 or 4? That's peak. That
and 2 times was the same thing.
That's a piss take. That, you know, like if I was his people, I'd be looking to sue you on some
100%.
level. Because
I hear that, but here's the thing with PSG. He was for sale the whole window. There's been 30 days where you could have got Ziyech and it would have been so easy. Now you pick deadline day when we send our greatest and finest to sort out this Enzo deal. It's awful. We had other priorities.
How can you get the money right to send Jorginho one way across London? But you can't.
That's just an Uber.
Yeah, but you can get the Euro tunnel from fucking Houston or wherever you jump on it from. It's not that hard. Like,
I don't know. Some intern was involved or something. Apparently, we sent the documents twice.
Hey, I tell you what,
no
Lewis, I bet if it was Havertz, you'd have been in the offices your fucking self, wouldn't you?
That's a fair point.
Listen. Let's move. Let's move, man. Lewis, might as well start with you. Actually, Jorginho to Arsenal. It was a strange one.
Right,
I didn't really see it coming, if I'm honest with you. Having said that, it's a player we have looked at before. I'm deflated by this one for a couple of reasons. I also understand why there's positives. So I'm going to come to you with positives and negatives about this player and see if you agree. I think the positives are the obvious. He's a leader. He's an experienced head. He's won stuff. He's got winning mentality. I can hear all that. The stats, if you want to go stats, I'm not really a stats man. But if you want to go stats, I can understand why Mikel Arteta will look at some of those statistics and think that they're similar to what Thomas Partey has brought to Arsenal. I can kind of get that. There's a lot of negatives for me. He's the wrong side of 30. He's declining as a footballer. He's definitely going to slow down play. I don't think he can get about the pitch as much as Thomas Partey can. And I don't see him as a player that can walk into the Arsenal side and it be, wow, it's as if Thomas Partey is here. So I want you to tell me what you think of this signing as a Chelsea fan, Lewis, and what you think Arsenal have got themselves in Jorginho, mate.
I'm fuming that we gave him to you. I won't even lie. It's pissed me off because I thought it had something to do with getting Enzo. And potentially we were going to go in for Enzo and Caicedo on the same day. And I thought, if you're doing that and you need to sell a midfielder, fairs. I get that. Fine. But it's not involved at all. So now I'm thinking, why have we done this? Because, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's crap. You're taking another player for the retirement home, all of that. No, it's really not that. Jorginho is going to be a great transfer for you guys. I'm sure of it. It won't be a massive step towards the league title, but I do believe it helps you guys. I think he'd be great depth off the bench, and that's the role I want him at Chelsea. Bring him on the last 10, 15 minutes if you're on a winning position and you need to slow down the play, if you need to control the tempo, control possession. Jorginho comes on, brilliant addition to do that. That's the role I want him for Chelsea. Arteta is bringing him into Arsenal for that exact same role. He's not coming in to start because he won't get into that starting 11. But he's there to come off the bench and slow down possession when you are in winning positions. That's a very simple job, and he's going to perform that perfectly for you guys. I am 100% sure Jorginho is going to do well for Arsenal, and I'm pissed off that we gave him to you. I really am, because that would have been good depth for us.
Errol, what's your thoughts on this signing, bro?
To be honest with you, I'm a bit like you. I can see the pros and the cons of it. Like it's a short-term fix to the issues that you're currently facing in your midfield from that perspective. You've got Partey. Is he out injured as well as some other shit going on in the background?
El Neni's out injured. Lokonga's now gone. So literally we've got Partey, Xhaka and Jorginho. That is it. And that's it to really kind of rotate. And I think when you're trying to push towards getting a title, I know you had the options on the other lad, Caicedo from Brighton. I think he would have been the long-term solution and the successor to a couple of those players in that area for you. And I think obviously that would have been your top target. But essentially,
I like the fact that Arteta's went, right, well, our top target isn't, it's not necessarily not feasible, but it's not practical right now. We're not going to get it. Brighton aren't willing to do the deal. There are still other players that can come in and do a job and serve a purpose for our goals and our ambitions this season. You was quite heavily critical, as were quite a few Arsenal fans last season, about, you know, putting yourself in the prime position to be able to nail down a top 4 spot. Getting those extra additions over the line and those extra bodies in the likes of Trossard, being able to get in a Jorginho, those will put you in good stead. Not to necessarily, again, you've got ambitions of winning a title, but top 4's nailed on for Arsenal now. You've got enough players in and around. And I know you know you're not even thinking like that at the minute, and I don't blame you for not. But that's definitely still where Arteta's mind is. He wants to make sure that those goals are met first and foremost. If you're still in a position to win a title in the last 4 or 5 games, then go gung-ho for it. But you've got to earn the right to be there in the first place. And having players like Jorginho with his vast level of experience, with everything that Lewis said about his ability and being able to come on and not necessarily influence games in terms of an offensive mindset, but actually dictate the pace of the game and take the sting out of the game, really, and suffocate the team in terms of, well, you're not going to get the ball because we're just going to keep recycling it. I don't think there are better midfielders. It's weird that you've got a midfielder on deadline day and Liverpool as a club didn't. But out of all of the midfielders available, Jorginho is the only midfielder that we probably didn't need this window. So him going to use is one of them where you think, actually, it makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. It's not a long-term fix, but in the here and now, I don't see he's making a better signing to at least help you along the way going forward with the price that he's paid for him.
Do you know Arteta's wanted him for years, right? All the way back to Man City days. It's going to be a very good transfer for Arsenal. It's just improving your depth. That's all you needed for this window. Jorginho is good depth for you guys in midfield, even for the Europa League run as well. If you're trying to go for both competitions, Jorginho would be a very good impact for you in those sorts of games. So, yeah, I think it's a very good transfer for you. I understand why you wouldn't think so, because half our fan base just cusses him out every single week. But you'll see. You honestly will see. It's going to be a very good addition to your squad.
Promising and optimistic from you to hear that, Lewis. Tobes, welcome to the show, bruv. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining us, bruv. What's your thoughts on Arsenal's transfer window? Do you think now that we're stronger than we were when we started the season? And do you think those Trossard, Kivior, and of course Jorginho are going to do anything to help us win this title, bruv?
Yeah, you're definitely stronger. I mean, you signed players who are starting. You signed a player who was starting at Chelsea, and you signed a player who was starting at one of the best teams in the league this season. So of course, they're going to improve their team. But me, I've never really taken to Jorginho. Like maybe it's because of the Chelsea overgas. Maybe it's just because I don't really like. I hate his hip skip penalties. There's just something about Jorginho that I've
hop and skip. You're trying to say, right?
Hop, skip. Sorry, whatever it is. I've just never taken to him, right? And when I say taken to him, I don't mean I think he's a crap player, but I'm very quick to be critical on him when he has a bad game. And I genuinely think the Chelsea fan base. I remember there was a period when they won the Champions League and
Jorginho for Ballon d'Or.
When he won the Champions League and then he went on to win the Euros, was one of the most insufferable periods I've experienced as a fan that wasn't Chelsea, because the nonsense that Chelsea fans were saying about this guy, it just made me hate him. It just made me hate him so much. But if I'm being honest,
I'm glad we did our job.
I don't think he's a bad player at all. I think he is a good player. I think he's a good player, but I just feel like Chelsea didn't give him a new contract. Chelsea were happy to let him go at 31 years old. So I think because of the circumstances Arsenal were in, it makes it a calm signing. Like when you look at the optics of the deal, 18-month deal, 12 million, it's not going to break the bank. And I don't think he's on extremely high wages. So this is a player that probably won't even be at Arsenal by the end of 2024, really and truly. So it's not the end of the world. And Thomas Partey has been fit for the majority of this season, probably like 90% of this season. And if Thomas Partey is fit, then really and truly you only need to play Jorginho in the games that you don't want to play Thomas Partey in, like Europa League, like your maybe bringing him off the bench for the last like 30 minutes of a game, like Lewis said, to take the sting out. So I don't think it's a bad signing for Arsenal at all. I just don't think it's. I wouldn't call it a good signing. I wouldn't call it a good signing. I think it's a marriage of convenience. Like you needed someone to come in there to give you enough that it isn't a drastic drop off from what you had in terms of El Nene and Lokonga, and Jorginho fits the bill. So it's not
He's
the end
better
of
than Lokonga. He's better than Lokonga.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he is better than El Nene. Yeah, that's
he's better than El Nene. He's better.
I'm not saying he's not, but El Nene's used to the role that he plays for Arsenal. He does the job. He does that, and he does the job. Do you get me? How many times can you say? How many times can you say that El Nene's come on and let you down?
Jorginho's not going into start. If you look at him as a depth option, it's a good signing. Very good signing.
Yeah, you say but even if you look at it for depth, right? Yeah, Thomas Partey is a big reason why Arsenal can play the way they play, and even when he does play in certain matches, there are things that Thomas Partey offers Arsenal that Jorginho simply can't offer. He's nowhere near as athletic. He's nowhere near as athletic. He can't cover big spaces. Yes, he's smart. He's smart positionally. He's smart defensively. And when the game is compact, which when the game is compact and Arsenal's shape is compact, right, and you're trying to pen teams in, Jorginho, that's where he excels in. But if the game opens up, that's where he fails in, right? So that's why I'm not saying, oh, this is a good signing, because when you look at the player that they were trying to sign, Caicedo, what he lacks in the passing that Jorginho has, because Jorginho passing wise is really good, and I think that's what that's the main thing he's gonna bring to Arsenal. What he lacks in passing, he makes up for with his off the ball work. Off the ball, he is infinitely better than Jorginho. He's way more.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jorginho has those deficiencies in his game, but I just don't think you get a player of like Thomas Partey's quality and then you just sit him on the bench. Like, I think Caicedo would come in and he'd be much more of a competition to start. I just don't think Jorginho's that. I think Jorginho has all those deficiencies you're saying, but he's not really been brought in to be a main factor of the squad either.
Yeah, but I'm not. But the whole listen. Yeah, you're right. He's not being brought in to be a main factor of the squad now because Arsenal couldn't get a piece that could actually compete with Thomas Partey. But the whole point was to bring in a midfielder to actually compete with Thomas Partey. That was why they were going for Mudryk. That was why they were going for Caicedo. And of course, we're not trying to say Caicedo is as good as Partey. And for all intents and purposes, I do believe that the fee that was being put on Caicedo's head was ludicrous. It didn't make sense. But the whole point of Arsenal right now with those signings was they don't want there to be a drastic drop-off. Yeah, when one player comes out of the team, the other player that comes in, it doesn't feel like that player is missing, right? And that's been Arsenal's big issues. When the first team, how many times has Pot said it? How many times as many Arsenal fans said it? When the first team key players drop out of that team, the level is too low, and when they're competing for a title, they need quality, right? Jorginho fills a void for now, right? He's someone, like you said, who's a proven winner, all of this jazz, but he is fundamentally a good player. He is fundamentally a good player who's actually got experience of getting a team over the line. So when you're in a title charge, provided you can keep Thomas Partey fit, it's a calm signing. It's not the end of the world. It's a relatively calm signing. Low risk. It's not an issue. And we're not exactly talking about a scrub here. We're talking about an experienced Premier League player who's been playing for one of the best teams in the league for years.
I'll be honest with you. I
don't like him.
I don't see Jorginho being here this time next year at Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete.
I don't see it.
He doesn't need to be. If they win a league, though, bro, he doesn't need to be.
If they this is the thing. He's been brought in for a period to do a job, and to be fair, Toby's absolutely spot on with what he said with regards to Jorginho. And I just think periodically he'll come in and do a job, but Arsenal will ultimately get the player that they want in the summer, that they wanted originally to fill that void, and they'll get. Well, this is the thing, like, and it goes. This is a question for Potts really. On the back of that, I don't personally see Jorginho being here this time next year. He's come in and done a job for a really cheap fee, experienced player, all the stuff that Toby's just said, absolutely right. But I think Arsenal get the player that they want in the summer. But the question is, for me, is that who is the player that you want? Because you've got Moise Caicedo, who I think is an outstanding player. I think the only thing in his game, and like Lewis and Toby just talked about it, the only thing in his game he hasn't got that matches Jorginho is his passing. Everything else in his game is significantly better than Jorginho, and his passing will get better. He's a young player. He will develop. There's no doubt about that. Do you want him as your man, or as you've talked about with Lawless many a times, and lots of Arsenal fans in the chat tonight are saying Rice is the number one target? Who for you, Potts, is the number one target for you? And if you had the choice between the two, who would you want? I know who I would want, but if I was an Arsenal fan, but I'm just saying.
I mean, it's obvious. I already know Potts' answer. It's obvious who you'd want.
He knows. He knows. I really like Declan Rice. I really like Declan Rice, and I think he's been doing it at West Ham for a number of seasons now. Caicedo, I really like. My answer is I'd like both. Whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. Depends what Brighton are going to be asking. Depends how happy Caicedo will be. I look at what Rice has left at West Ham, and I think his time's done. And he wants out. So if the rumours are true and there's a verbal agreement in place, if the rumours are true that Declan Rice wants Arsenal, I would love to see it, because I would happily hand some Kleenex tissues to Lawless and take him. But I think he'd be a fantastic signing for Arsenal. I really like him. I think he'd fit in with everything that we're after. If we could only get one, I would go with Declan Rice, personally. Not that I don't like Caicedo, because I think he's sick and I think he's going to be quality. But I think what Declan Rice could do at Arsenal could be great. And I think that we definitely need to refresh our midfield in the summer, because with El Neni...
If you'd have got Caicedo this month, would you have been happy knowing that was probably going to be the end of it being Rice coming in the summer? Because I don't see Rice coming in the summer if you'd have got Caicedo yesterday.
I do. I actually do. I actually disagree. I actually think we would still have gone for Rice, because we need to. We need to. We can't sit there and say, because we've got Caicedo now, party checker Caicedo done, move away from Rice. We need Rice as well. They need 4 in there that are going to be refreshed. You've got 2 that are hitting 30. One of them that always seems to be injured in party. Rice and Caicedo, that's a very, very good midfield. If you're talking about Arsenal going to doing what we want to do, which is at the moment go and win titles, we're going to need that for me. 100% we are. So, Pete, let me just come to you quick, because I want to go to Errol, because I know he hasn't got long and I want to talk about Liverpool quick. But Pete, let me, not that he wants to. Pete, just quickly, out of everyone on the panel, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I would go as far to say as you're probably the only one that would be okay seeing Arsenal lift the Premier League title ahead of Man City. Do you think Arsenal have done enough? Maybe Dan, actually. Maybe Dan. Yeah. But in seriousness, do you think Arsenal have done enough there to give them the best possible chance of a Premier League title?
You come to the outsider first. We ain't been up here for a long time, so you come to me first, because these boys are always fighting it out every year. But look, you know what? Have you done enough? I think you have, because you've improved on what you've done already, and already is enough to see you in the position that you're in. Yeah, you've improved your squad. You've improved with players. So for me, I think you've done enough. You know, everyone's talking about Man City having this run, and yes, they've had this run for a number of years, and they've done it. I don't see it. I don't see it this year. I don't see Man City going on a run that they've done alongside Liverpool for the last number of years. I don't see them doing that this year. They just look. There's just something different about Man City in the way in which they are. But do I see Arsenal being consistent? They've already proved they can be consistent. Can they be consistent again? Why not? And you've already improved the squad. Trossard, good signing. Once he's bedded in, he will have moments that will win you games. There's no doubt about it. You know, he will come in and do a good job. He's a talented boy in the prime of his career. He's ready to go. So for me, I think you've done enough business. You've improved the squad. Maybe not to what you wanted in terms of individual players. You would have wanted Mudryk. You would have wanted maybe a Caicedo, a Rice if possible. But those players are enough of an improvement to boost your squad to go into the second half of the season, definitely.
Fair play, man. I look at our bench now and it does look much better than it did at the start of the season. It was absolute shambles. I can't lie. There was kids on it that I'd never even heard of at one stage. But now, Tierney, Tomiyasu, Turner, Kivior, Jorginho, El Neni, Smith Rowe,
Is this Kivio guy even good?
Nketiah.
Not saying he's crap, but
Say
is he
again?
what's he about? Is this Kivio guy? Is he good? Do you know anything about him?
No, I don't know enough about him. 22 years old, highly rated, Polish centre back. That's about as much as I can give you, mate. Is he better than Rob Holding? Yeah, he must be. Please, he's got to be better than him. But other than that, Tobes, I wouldn't be able to tell you. All I know is that Lewandowski has said some nice things about him, but I'm sure he said nice things about other people as well. Highly rated. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I actually, I don't actually agree with Pete. I agree that you've done enough to improve your squad, right? But if you ask me, at the start of the window, when you look at who Arsenal were rumored to sign and the impact those players could have had in your team to what you actually got in the end, I don't think you have done enough, because it looked like
fair,
you
and
guys,
I agree with you.
I feel like it looks like you guys went into this window with serious cash to spend. And I think you only went into the window with serious cash to spend because you had the intention to bring in players, right? Players who you would bring in and they're looking like they could start straight away on top of what's already a really, really well-gelled 11. That's the way I would see it. Like, it's not a bad, of course, it's not a bad window, but is it the best possible window? No. And we all know that it comes down to fine margins in the league. And granted, you've got a 5-point gap; it could extend to 8. But you never know. You never know. Like, you never know in football. Things change so quick, and you've put yourself into such a good position where like the league is a genuine possibility. Like, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm looking.
Let me ask you this quick. If so, Jorginho and Trossard, who do we got? Forget Kivior, because that's just someone I didn't expect to get right. If we would have got Caicedo and Mudryk, are you talking different? Are you talking like, wow, okay, Arsenal serious?
100%. I think you're already serious now. But if you got Mudryk and Caicedo, that to me tells me, like they are hell bent on winning this league title. 100%. 100%.
Do you not give them a slight little bit of edge as well, because the competition closest to them probably weakened their starting 11/squad in the same window as well?
In terms of Man City selling Cancelo?
Yeah, definitely weaker.
I think that, again, that like makes a bit more of a buffer as well on top of that.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. And I think that, that was a mad one, by the way. I still don't understand that one, Cancelo, but he's obviously fallen, even though he says he hasn't, he's obviously fallen out with Pep. But listen, if we've done enough, then so be it. If we haven't done enough, so be it. But I want something to be said. And I believe that Arsenal fans at the moment believe that we can't have concerns and we cannot dare say anything negative about what's going on because we're top of the league. Actually, we can. But as far as I'm concerned, Jorginho and Trossard, when you're going for Mudryk and Caicedo, can you not understand why fans might be a bit, that's a bit of a shame.
100%.
When you say that, but Tobes, when you say that, the Arsenal fans will come at you because they'll come at
you.
Let
them come. They're just being Neanderthals, man. Because what we're saying is pretty clear. It's not been a bad window for Arsenal. These signings do improve Arsenal. Right, Arsenal's first 11 was already strong. These signings have improved Arsenal. The options now on the bench are stronger, right? But when you compare it to what Arsenal were initially going for, and the potential impact that those signings initially reported could have made, it is a little bit underwhelming. It is underwhelming. I
think that's fair.
Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean Arsenal can't win the league. Arsenal absolutely can win the league with the signings they've made, right? But in my opinion, they would have stood a better chance of winning it with Caicedo and Mudryk instead of Trossard and what's his name and Jorginho.
It'd have helped him in the summer transfer window as well, because they'd have already got 2 players there that they really, really wanted
for the future.
Now you're going into the summer window, where they're going to be chasing. Are they still going to be looking at the same positions to try and try and better? You know what I mean?
But Trossard is good. Listen, Trossard's a good player. I didn't want him at Spurs because I felt like we already had 2 options on that side. But he's still a good player. And when you look at Arsenal's attack now, Emil Smith-Rowe's been injured all season, right? He's barely played. This Marquinhos brother doesn't look like he's cutting it at Arsenal. He's been loaned out. Pepe's on loan. So really and truly, out wide, who do you have to play there? if it's not Saka and Martinelli? Who do you have?
Fair. Listen, I like Trossard. I think
Reece
he's a very
Nelson?
good signing.
So Trossard comes in, and Trossard actually provides. Yes, he definitely provides competition for Martinelli. He's bagged what?
I just meant
goals this season?
on though, Toby. I
But-
meant between Mudryk and Trossard. That's what I meant by that. Is obviously Mudryk. How old is he? 21, 22? He's got and he's just going to get better and better. I kind of feel like Mudryk and Trossard are already there, and he's just going to fly up. So I just kind of feel like this is maybe affected the summer transfer window for Arsenal, really.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, let's listen. I obviously hope it's enough. You guys will hope it won't be enough. We'll soon find out. We're going to move. Errol, your football club are not getting any better, my friend. I looked at them against Brighton and thought, what the hell was going on? You didn't do enough for me in the transfer window. I know Gakpo came in, but I didn't think that was a play he needed. If I'm honest with you, I was shocked that you went for him. I know you've got injuries, and I get that. But your midfield is so bad, it is just scary. And I thought you would have done something, bro. So talk to me about the lack of transfer window activity and out of all the competitions again, man. Domestically, what's going on, bro?
First and foremost, to not defend the titles that you've got and not put in those performances is just not good enough. At the end of the day, what's the point in winning them one year if next year you're just going to go out in the first 2 rounds that you play both of those respective competitions? So I think the players have let themselves down in that respect because they haven't showed the mentality of champions for my liking. When you look at the business conducted in the transfer window, bro, we're down bad. You've got to call a spade a spade. We're shit right now. And I think I know people will come at me for, my approach and the way I see things sometimes, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm quite frankly not asked about most Liverpool fans' opinions at the minute because our fan base is so polarized. It's become a really toxic environment online the last month, six weeks or whatever. But essentially, you can see FSG have obviously outgrew, or the current model has outgrew the pockets and the financial backing that FSG have got. So the only thing that they've been able to do is put their money into tangible assets that are going to make the club more valuable. So when they've decided now to put the club up for sale, I can't see them spending 150 or 200 million pounds of their own money again because players are speculative assets. At the end of the day, Caicedo's price was 80 million to come to use the other day, 2 days ago. He's never an 80 million pound player. Man's not even played 30 games in the Premier League. So you can't be buying players for that much money. Because you dictate it or Brighton want that money doesn't mean that's genuinely what the player's worth. So I don't see why they would entertain paying stupid money for players that are quite frankly out of the reach. We clearly have doubled down on wanting one particular midfielder. I don't think that's the smartest move because I think we've seen it last year with Tuchinemi. Wanting him, speaking to him, even before that, Camavinga, wanting him, speaking to him, having that rapport, that relationship, and then saying, yeah, we're going to bring them to the club. And it fell through. He went and he chose other clubs. There's nothing stopping Jude Bellingham from doing the exact same in the summer, especially if we are still in the on the pitch position that we are likely to be in come April and May. We needed a midfielder. There's no two ways about it. We needed to bring in some bodies in that engine room because at the moment, what we've currently got isn't working for us. I do feel sorry for the likes of Cody Gakpo because not only is he come into a team that is currently struggling, he's come into a team with players that are injured and other players that aren't actually having the desired impact and doing what they need to be doing on the pitch for us, playing with really low confidence. It's hard for him to come in and be a star boy right now. And I as a Liverpool fan, don't expect him to be a star boy. I think we'd be setting him up to fail if we put all that pressure on him. The hardest thing for us right now is without the signings and without the reinforcements and the fresh bodies, how do we turn this form around? And that's probably the biggest question that is on Liverpool, because you can sit there and blame FSG all you want, but FSG have got 2 windows each side of the year to operate in. If they choose not to operate in those 2 windows for whatever purpose, or they don't choose to address the right areas, the only other thing you can do is work with the squad that you've got. And right now, currently, Klopp has got a squad that isn't, well, not necessarily a squad that's not fit for purpose, but 100% a midfield that's not fit for purpose. We've had these conversations, Dan, about fucking which midfielders are falling off a cliff, which midfielders of legs have gone, which midfielders just don't particularly suit the system right now, aren't potentially number 8 or number 6s. We've got so many issues within that.
Are you shocked though, Errol, that he ain't gone for somebody?
Honestly, bro, not who, like, again, real. There was no genuine, realistic target that we could go for. That
Don't fancy like somebody like Yuri Tillemans, or is that a bad move?
Again, if we was going to have went for him and Klopp believed that he was the right player, we would have got him either a season ago or a season before. Fair. Like it's one of them. Like sometimes when we're linked with a player and then we move on them, it's because you can tell someone hasn't fancied them. And once we're stubborn, once we make that decision, we're not going to go back and do it from a place of weakness. That's the only thing for me. The Arthur Melo one at the start of the season, that was the biggest kick in the teeth, because that's the first time where I've seen us operate from a place of weakness, and we've just like scrambled for a signing instead of actually sticking to our guns and getting the type of player that we want, or getting a plan B. I mentioned it before about, Arteta and the fact that he didn't necessarily get his A target in Casado, but what he was able to do was address another area that was been needed, or another role that was needed to be fulfilled, and went and found another player to fit that mold. We're not even capable of doing that. But I'm telling you, if you can't get your box to box like Bellingham, there are other midfielders that we need right now. We need a good DM. We need someone that can screen and play a lot better than what Fabinho's playing at this moment in time. We need another 8 that can not necessarily do it to Bellingham's level, but come and kick on past Jordan Henderson and Naby Keita. So there was other positions in that midfield where we could have got pieces of the puzzle, but we've not even went for option A, B, or C. We've decided that we're better off with what we've got. And if that is a serious footballing decision and Liverpool, all of you man know on this panel, Liverpool over the last 5 years have made good footballing decisions, whether we've spent hundreds and hundreds of millions or not. The players and the personnel that have been brought in have been good footballing acquisitions at the right time for us. This time round, it's like the brains have fell out of everybody in the board, and everyone's looking at the next person to say, well, what idea have you got? Or what are you going to do, lad? You tell me, how are we going to fix this? And ultimately, we've sat on our hands and we've shit the bed. We've fumbled the bag. And at the end of the day, right now, it's a long way back to where we ultimately want to be. And I'm sitting here thinking Chelsea now need to overtake us and finish in those Europa League spots and or the Conference League. And we need to just be happy with 8th, 9th, or 10th. And just fucking crack on next season. You can shake your head, Toby. You can shake your head, but bro, on a level,
you lot can have the Conference League.
No. I'm shaking my head. I'm not even shaking my head at what you're saying, because I've seen it now. Like in the last couple of weeks, I've done a heel turn in Liverpool, and because I was so sure they were going to finish top 4, but eventually, you just have to take what you're seeing in front of you. We saw Liverpool when they had some of their key players available, they had some of their key players not available. The end result's still the same. They still look poor, right?
So, bro, we're shit.
The only reason I'm shaking my head is because, brother, somebody's finishing in the Conference League spot. When it comes to Spurs,
you go first.
Spurs, Chelsea, or Liverpool, somebody is finishing 7th.
Oh, it's like musical fucking chairs. That spot, nobody wants to sit down.
Don't rule that out. That's how sick my head. Don't rule out Conference League. Don't rule it out.
But you know what?
We'd have snapped your hand off for it in August. We'd have took it, we'd have said, yeah, thanks, in August.
And I'll give all of you man credit, because we had this conversation and he's came. I need to jump off in a second. He's came and he's basically told me straight that Klopp needs to be looked at. Klopp is going to earn his coin. He's going to earn his coin in the next 4 to 5 months. Let me tell you that now, because I love Klopp.
So stubborn though, Errol. So stubborn.
Exactly. I still think
when
he's coming out with season. I still think he walks.
No, he won't walk. Let's not go too far. Let's not go too far off the reservation now. Come on, Dan. But when he's sitting there and he's talking about, we can't find the problem and the solution in the transfer market, everything is good with the squad, you're taking the fucking piss out of the fan base, because we are loyal to you through it all. We've been through it all. We've been in the mud for years. Like the mud was that muddy. We were cemented there for time. Do you get me? Like, we've been and rose out of that. We don't want to go back there, and we've been. So, look at Pete, he knows. From our perspective, we've stuck with you. So don't bullshit us as a fan base. Give us the intelligence that we deserve to know that right now the problems that we can't fix aren't necessarily in the transfer market, and realistically I have to work with what I've got, but I'm prepared to do right by these players and bring the best out of them. We've got the likes of that young lad Stefan Bacesic. Said it the other day, it's good that he's making his stamp, but is it just because how poor everybody else is around us? And that's the biggest question for us at the moment. It's great that you've got a young lad that looks good, but is it because of the situation that you are currently finding yourself in?
The Anthony Elanga syndrome, that is. Elanga for us last season. Come on, everyone was like, this guy's going to do it. He's been, he's got minutes this season, hasn't he? He's probably got 100 minutes all season.
Still turned down Everton, though.
Yeah.
Mate,
That's
everyone.
the only silver lining. If Everton goes down, it's been a successful season. That's
Errol, yes.
Bro,
yes,
not
brother.
poor, that is. But lads, I'm gonna have to
down.
jump off. Yeah, if you go onto my, sorry to plug it down, but if you go
Nah,
onto my
do it.
handle, I am doing a little bit of training for a good cause at the moment. I'm raising money for cancer research. Trying to raise money for a friend that passed away at the start of the year. So if anyone has any time or energy to donate a little bit of something, my handle's there. There's a link or there's a post and a link in my Twitter. Go find it. Much appreciated. Boys, I will catch up with you all next week. I've got to go get my head punched in.
Take care, my guy. Big up.
Nice one, Errol. Take care, man. Make sure you go over.
See ya.
Make sure you go over to that People Solitaire side up. Make sure you go support Errol.
They're in trouble, man.
I agree with Dan.
No,
I agree
Everton
with Dan.
are- I actually think Everton can
I think Klopp walks.
stay up with Sean Dyche. I rate Sean Dyche when it comes to this type of situation. But I was talking about Liverpool. I think Liverpool are in big trouble this season, man. When I look at their run of games coming up in February and March, they got Madrid, they got Chelsea. No, not Chelsea. They got Madrid, they got Arsenal, they got Man City. I think they play Newcastle. They play Newcastle away from home as well. Listen, Konate out for 3 weeks. Van Dijk still not back from injury yet. Diaz not back till March. Jota potentially not back till March.
They're in the mud.
Like they and Jurgen Klopp seemingly not having a good enough midfield trio to sort of work with. Like they are sinking, man. And
he walks.
I think he walks.
I don't think he walks. I don't think he walks.
Tobes, honestly,
I think he goes.
I agree with Dan. I think I'm not saying he's going to walk in the summer. I'm not saying that, but I think he'll walk at some point. Klopp has rebuilt Liverpool to what they are right now. If they start declining, which they are right now, and what you've said, Toby, is absolutely right. They are in the mud right now. They are struggling. I genuinely believe if he believes in his heart that they can't compete, he'll walk. He has built them to the point where he's competing on every level. And he is very happy being that competitive manager at the top of the game. He's been talked about one of the best managers around at this moment in time over the last 5 or 6 years. If he drops that level, I don't think he's going to want to stay around.
Mate, I think
he's going to look at the next phase.
The sale as well, Pete. If they don't get sold, because the Liverpool sale talks have just stopped. I mean, they have stopped.
Don't talk about takeovers.
No, but what I mean
is,
no. But what I mean is, if they don't get bought, do you think Klopp's going to want another summer like the transfer window he's just had? He's not got any money. Do you not?
If I was a betting man, I'd put money on it that this time next year Liverpool is still not.
But Dan, so let's wheel it back here, right? So we say they don't have money. Listen, they don't have Man City money. They don't have Chelsea money. They don't have Newcastle money. So Liverpool, for all intents and purposes, are a club where Jurgen Klopp has sort of had one arm tied behind his back in terms of true funding relative to his peers, right? But Liverpool spent 85 million on Darwin Núñez. Nobody asked them to do that. Not a single person asked them to spend 85 million on Darwin Núñez.
But this is the takeover side.
They had the option to prioritize their midfield in the summer. They didn't do it. They bought an attacker. They had the option to prioritize their midfield again in January. They didn't do it. They bought an attacker. And we know that Liverpool needed attackers. We know that because they had serious injuries in the 2021 season, and they got injuries now. But there's a balancing scale. There's a balancing scale here. I'm sorry, but when you've seen this club spend over 120 million on 2 attackers that haven't been able to give them the thrust that they need, then you also have to look inward and look at whether they were right to spend the money that they did on some of those players.
But then the other question is, were they Klopp players? Did Klopp want them? That's my other question.
Of course he did. Of course he did. There's no way on earth Liverpool are spending 85 million on a player if Jurgen Klopp don't want them. If there's one thing we've seen with their recruitment strategy, right? If there's one thing we've seen, right? Jurgen Klopp ultimately gives a buy-in. If he doesn't want the player, they're not going to sign him. They're not going to sign him.
That's fair. That's fair. But also, we talk about Klopp being the world-class manager he is. How could you not see back end of last season that this midfield was going to fucking implode?
That's also very true. That is
But
very
then
true.
exactly. So then that's what I'm saying. There needs to be more ownership, the inward ownership on not just Jurgen Klopp, but the powers that be in terms of building this squad, right? They looked at the attack, which is fair. Fair. You lost Sadio Mane, so you're going to have to look at the attack 100%, right? But it was negligence for me for them to not bring in a starting caliber midfielder in the summer. They ended up with Arthur, an injury-prone midfielder who couldn't even play regularly for Juventus. And now you get another bite at the cherry. You can see what is quite clearly the biggest crux of your team. Of course, I get it. Jota, Diaz injured. You need attackers. But your midfield is bleeding. The way you are setting up this team, your midfield cannot play the way that you need. Yeah. And yet you go another window without a midfielder. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Exactly. You forgot about one clear thing on top of all of that. So you talked about the Darwin Núñez fee and all the rest of it, but you forgot about weeks before that how he was bemoaning everyone else spending huge fees and how Liverpool were never going to spend that sort of money on a player, and that he doesn't believe in it, and all the rest of the rubbish that he was talking about in his press conferences at the back end of last season. Then he goes and spunks that money on Darwin Núñez. Nobody's talked about that. Hold on a second. You were the prophet at the top, telling everybody about how people should spend their money and how they shouldn't spend crazy money and 80 to 100 million.
Very hypocritical.
And then he goes and does that. And then he bemoans the fact that he hasn't got what he needs. I think, Toby, you're absolutely right. He has neglected the club by not signing players that were needed in certain positions.
I get that. But okay, let's flip it back. This season, terrible season for him. What was more important to Klopp, an attacker when he knows he's got the 2 coming back that are going to change it, or a midfielder for a midfielder, as Tobes has quite rightly said, is bleeding, is absolutely being destroyed game in, game out.
The thing is, I actually do think they needed another attacker, right? Because the injuries to Diaz was substantial, and Jota is injury prone. Firmino is on his way out, right? So that means that leaves them with Diaz, Salah, Jota, Firmino, and Núñez, right? And two or three of these guys have been injured throughout the course of the season. They needed another attacker, but for them to go out and sanction like a 40 million, potentially rising to 50 million pound deal on Gakpo, who I don't think is a bad player.
No, he's quality.
Is weird to me. And what makes, and I remember asking Grizz this on the Big Six, what I didn't understand is they bought another attacker to play on the left side, to play centrally. You already have Diaz there. You already have Núñez there. When Darwin Núñez isn't hitting up top, he normally stations himself out on the left. So you already have 3 attackers that are playing in Gakpo's preferred position. Why would you then bring in another attacker who plays predominantly in that area? If you're bringing in another attacker, you bring them in on Mo Salah's side. The guy's playing every single game, and people are wondering why he's thinking, okay, we can criticize Mo Salah, his performances are poor, but he has literally had minimal rest. Since this guy has joined Liverpool, he's barely had any rest because there's no one that they brought in on that side to actually take him off the starting 11 and put him on the bench. So I think there's a host of issues wrong with Liverpool now. I do think the ownership have to take accountability for the fact that, okay, cool, even if you did spend 80 whatever on Núñez, Jurgen Klopp is Jurgen Klopp, and if he needs a midfielder, you do what you need to get him a midfielder. But I also think Liverpool, Klopp included, the backroom staff, the recruitment team, whatever, they've massively neglected their midfield. Everyone's been talking about their midfield for years and years and years, and they still won't do anything about it. And now it's all come crashing down, and it's going to take them how many windows to fix this? What's going to happen in the summer? They're going to sign 3 midfielders. We're seeing Saicedo being quoted for 80 million. We're seeing Enzo going for 120 million.
And they want Bellingham. They want Bellingham, who's going to be about 120 million.
He's going to goes on a free, doesn't he? Keita goes on a free in the summer as well.
He's going to cost an arm and a leg.
That's the Enzo thing, isn't it? With Enzo costing 120 million, how much is, as someone said before, how much is Bellingham going to go for if Enzo's gone for 120? Because I
was listening to Coppen Fracas, big up Coppen Fracas. I was listening to them today, and they made a great point that like teams know Liverpool need a midfielders now. Everyone can see Liverpool need midfielders now. So what's going to happen when Liverpool go to clubs and ask for midfielders? They're going to jack the price up.
Yeah,
100%.
So now they're looking at a crazy outlay on midfield with money that they don't really have. They're literally banking on this takeover, because if they don't have this takeover, they're in trouble.
Yeah,
100%, man. Listen, let's move. Dan United, you got 10, 15 minutes until kickoff, bruv. Sabitzer, Weghorst, good window, poor window, Mare window.
Butland, fucking hell,
Butland as well. Sorry,
unbelievable signing. My prayers are answered. The first thing I'd like to say is I got a laugh at Dean Henderson here, because Dean Henderson goes off to Forest and has been there was talks, there was a bit of frostiness between him and Ten Hag at the start of the season, and they bring in Navas. Now he's out injured. Navas is going to come in and start, and unless Navas does a Julio Cesar like for QPR, I don't think Henderson will play much again this season. But the signage, do you know what? I wasn't expecting us to sign anyone this winter. So it's been a bonus. It's been a bonus free transfers. Now the Butland one, take that out of the way. Goalkeeper, backup, blah blah blah. Weghorst, he's doing a job for us. He was never going to come in and get us 15, 20 goals to the rest of the season. He holds the ball up well. You can see he's absolutely giving his all. So that's all we can really hope for, with Martial being just constantly injured. But it was the Sabitzer one that surprised me, because I wanted him 2 years ago when he was at Leipzig. I was like, this guy is awesome. I watched him come to Old Trafford and play really well. So I think obviously Eriksen out till April is a big blow, but Sabitzer coming in, I'm over the moon with that. It was something that just come out of nowhere. So for the fact we haven't got any money to spend until Liverpool, until the takeover comes, I'm really, really happy with the transfer of Sabitzer. It was a welcome surprise, put it this way.
Yeah, I was surprised by it. I actually quite like the player. Not the tallest of players. You've gone from a giant to a midget in Weghorst to a midget in Sabitzer. I actually quite like the player. I don't know what he'll do. It's a big blow that Eriksen's out for Manchester United, because I've actually been really, really impressed with him. And fair play to Eriksen, because he's gone through a hell of a lot in the last couple of years. And he's walked into that side in a position that I really didn't think was going to suit him. And he's really, really done well, in my opinion. So I think Sabitzer and Weghorst, they could do a job for Manchester United. I actually like the way Ten Hag's got you playing, and I do think that you will get top 4. I think other than Arsenal and Man City at the moment, a lot of people are talking about United as being the next, along with Newcastle, that will be probably cemented in the place in that top 4, although there's a long way to go. Lewis, thoughts on Manchester United under Ten Hag and their transfer window, bro?
Yeah, they sorted out that Eriksen situation pretty quickly with Sabitzer. Not too sure about the player. I haven't really watched him too much at Bayern, but from the profile that I've read, looks like exactly what you need. And yeah, we're both happy. We both got midfielders. I think United didn't need too much anyway. You guys just need to shore up a couple areas, and I still think you guys are going to make top 4. So yeah, great window from United's perspective. Just on the right direction.
I think Pete had something to do with the Eriksen problem. Andy Carroll going and absolutely destroying Eriksen. How that wasn't a red card, by the way. I was in a bar in Scotland and I was like, what the hell is this? Absolute joke.
Don't blame us. That's because of what he was doing when he was at West Ham. That's not what he was doing when he was at Newcastle. But look, it was a horrible challenge. Red card.
It was rough, man. It was rough. Dan, you're the only team, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you are on the panel that's in all the competition still. What's your thoughts on the cups this year? United, I know top 4, obviously you'd love, but you got to go for a trophy, ain't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's bar any major disaster tonight, although Tom Heat is in goal for United tonight, we're in the final against Newcastle. I fully hope.
Where's Butland, mate? Where's Butland? Come on, what's happening?
You tell me, mate. He's probably injured again, isn't he? He's probably fucking injured. No, I fully hope, and I expect us to win the Carabao Cup. It's got to be bare minimum for how he's got us playing and where we are. Never expected it to start the season to be in that conversation. So a cup and top four has to be minimum expectation. To be still involved in all four fronts is probably a hindrance to United, I think, because I still don't think we got the squad to cope with that. And I think we're going to see a lot of people like Maguire playing a lot more games. So I don't know. Yeah, look, Cup. We're coming for the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, listen, I think it'll be a good season if Manchester United win a trophy because you need to. United are a huge
I hope they
club.
don't win it. I'll happily take. I'm in a halfway house, man, because it's like I don't want Newcastle to win it just so I start to hear that Newcastle, they've only had their oil money for 1 year and they already won the trophy before Spurs shtick. But at the same time, I don't like the fact that Man United are going to win a trophy with Ten Hag in his first season. I like Ten Hag, but I just feel like they're just making too much momentum, right? And all of a sudden, it's gone from United are below Spurs to wow, Man United are surging and leaving us behind. So,
Tobes don't want Man United to win. He don't want Newcastle to win. He don't want Arsenal to win the league. Just wants everyone to fail. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You hit it on the head. But to be honest, I would much rather Newcastle win it.
Yeah, I would.
100%. Me too.
I would. Pete, let me put this question to you.
If it was the FA Cup, Pete, you wouldn't give a shit.
No, I wouldn't. I still don't. Yeah.
I love that, man.
We'd only be the fourth round, fifth round. Nah.
Not good enough, mate. Not good enough. Pete, let me put this one to you, man. Smokey's come with a question. If your owner has money, which your owner does, do you think it's right to pressure them as fans to spend big in the right possible, judging by how this market is? Let me throw another one in there. I will say this now. Newcastle have surprised me in a way that I didn't expect. I thought they were going to go mad. I said it, didn't I? Start of the window, I said, expect a busy one, Pete. It's going to go mental. But I want to throw in the final as well, man. You must be buzzing to be in the final. Last night, I see the fans going mental. I kind of felt a little bit unlike Tobes. I kind of felt good for the fans. They've been through hell for the last 10 years with a poor owner. Good fan base, always been loyal, always a good place to go, St James's Park. And fair play to them, man. Trip out to Wembley, FA Cup final, Carabao Cup final. Probably going to be against Manchester United. I imagine it'll be a very good game. So talk to me about your thoughts on the window and Newcastle as a fan right now. Another final to be looked forward to, which you haven't been able to say for a while, Pete.
Yeah, a few things there. As a fan right now of Newcastle, very happy. Got to say, really happy. How can you not be? I said to you guys when you talk about who's going to get the Conference League and you're passing it off to each other like it's just petty cash, and I'm like, yeah, we'd have took that, we'd have snapped your hands off for that in August, like but we're absolutely buzzing right now. Fourth in the league, final of a cup. A year ago we'd have never expected this, and I feel like a kind of a broken record, keep saying that, but it's genuinely the feeling of every Newcastle fan right now is that we are just living the dream right now. We are where we never expected to be. So for me, buzzing as a Newcastle fan, buzzing to get to a final. Dan's absolutely right. They should expect to win the Carabao Cup. The pressure's on you. You haven't won a trophy since, if I'm right, thinking the Europa League,
2017.
Yeah, so the pressure is on you guys, and that is exactly where I want the pressure to be, is on you, not on us, because we are buzzing. The players are buzzing, the club is buzzing, the fans, the atmosphere last night, if you watched the game, you'd see the atmosphere was just unbelievable. Even the Southampton.
Shout out to the DJ, Pete.
And the DJ, playing, and you know what? He's already planning on sorting out the night before in Trafalgar Square, doing his little DJ set, and the Newcastle fans going down there. So look, we're just enjoying everything about it, and we're going to go down there and go, you know what? We weren't expecting to be here. We're here. We're just going to go and enjoy it and just have a go, and why not try and win a cup? And that's the mentality of the players. Look, Eddie Howe's going to get them ready. He's going to make sure that they're ready to go. In terms
of about Bruno G not playing, are Are you concerned about Bruno G not playing? Like, does that knock
No,
your?
he can play the final.
He's missing the next.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah, he misses the 3 games in the Premier
in
League.
the league, he misses.
Oh,
So
fantastic! Good.
He misses West Ham at the weekend,
Yes,
Bournemouth away, and then Liverpool at home. So the week before the cup final.
that's
So
great.
Those 3 games.
That's great news, because I thought United were going to get, United. I thought they were going to jammy their way and get and somehow get a half-baked Newcastle with no Bruno G. Good.
Yeah, he's literally now resting until the final. That's his next game. The next game is the Carabao Cup final. So we're happy with that. Disappointed that he's missing the Premier League games, because look, as Howe said last night, we're going on all fronts. We want to get top 4. We want to win a cup. We want both. He was asked last night what he would want between the two. He said, I can't decide. We want both. And that's exactly the type of response that we wanted to hear. So for me, buzzing right now, buzzing for the final. We're going to go into it and just go, you know what? Let's go for Man United if they get there, or Forest, and try and win a cup. What I will say about the window, in the build up to the window, we spoke about this on the show, and thinking about, we were talking about the Tillemans and your Madisons and all the rest of it. It became obvious probably last week that it wasn't going down that road. That it was going to be very, very different. We wanted at least one player to come in to supplement the squad, and Anthony Gordon's that guy. Spent 40 million with the rising to 45. Some people have got an issue with it. Mostly people outside of who support Newcastle have an issue with the fact that we spent that. I can see why we spent the money on Anthony Gordon. 21 years old, raw potential. His raw talents are exactly what Eddie Howe wants. His intensity, his speed, his ability to press high, and do everything that our forward 3 are currently doing. So he fits that mold really well. And because he's 21, and under the guidance of a manager that actually knows what he's doing in Eddie Howe, in comparison to Frank Lampard, and actually he can get the best out of players. Frank Lampard doesn't know how to make players better. He just buys players that are at that level and just play at that level. Eddie Howe,
he's a smart boy, because he got out before he had to face Sean Dyche.
And you know what? This is what I disagree with, because he got so much stick from Everton fans for leaving the club. But why would you not want to leave the club when you're being bombarded and not being allowed to leave your own stadium, and being banged on your car and demanded to get out the car, and threats being put against you? Why would you want to go and play for that club? Whether you're at that club from 11 years old or not. Why would you want to go and play for that club?
But Pete, just to play devil pressure. Just to play devil's advocate on this, I think the treatment of Gordon that time when he was leaving the stadium was nasty. Fans were getting toxic, yes, but at the same time, I felt like the way he dropped that video when he signed, I felt like that was quite nasty and disingenuous, because you're meant to be a hometown Evertonian, right? And you've left them right in the thick of a relegation battle after dropping what has actually been quite a poor campaign this season. Let's be real. And then you drop a video with a love heart. Like, what sort of reception is he meant to get there? Because let's be fair here, right? You would get a better reception if you stayed and battled with the team and then got your move in the summer. Gordon had interest from Chelsea and Spurs in the summer. Chelsea made a bid in the summer. Newcastle had interest in January. One thing was guaranteed is, no matter Everton's fate, no matter how badly Gordon was playing, he would have had the opportunity to move to a club like Newcastle in the summer. But he chose to. But he chose to. Yeah, but my point is, he chose to leave in January. So if you choose to leave in January, you got to take the stick that comes with it, because you've basically abandoned your hometown club mid-season. When they need you the most, you've abandoned them. Jack Grealish didn't do that. Richarlison didn't do that. But yet he thinks that he can just drop a video with a love heart, and then it's all going to be rose.
Neither of those players, the other players that you've mentioned, have been threatened and bombarded in your car. At that point, if you're a player and you suffer that off the back of fans having a go at you for bad performances, and you're isolated with that because no other player received that. He did more than anybody else, right? And if you've suffered that, at that point, you've got to think to yourself, is this the right place for me? And for me, if I was in that position, I'd be thinking the same, because you got to think of your own safety at that point. And the one thing on top of that is that the club didn't back him. The club didn't support him off the back of that. They didn't. And if that happens to you,
when we say the club didn't support him, how didn't the club support him? Because did they approach Yerry Mina? Didn't they approach Yerry Mina as well?
And the only reason they didn't do it to Yerry Mina is because he had a child in the car, and he said it before he got out the car that I've got.
Can I ask a question though? So you say the club
no, don't do it, don't do it.
Nah, Tom goes back.
It stopped it from happening.
So you say the club didn't support him.
Hold, one sec, Tobbs. Dan, go watch the football.
Starting.
Lewis, I know you got to shoot. Me, Pete, and Tobbs.
Big up, my G. Take care of yourself.
In a bit. See you next week, boys.
Take care, boys.
Bless.
My thing is, even the way he left as well, striking for 3 days, not letting up until you got your move. I don't know, man. Like I honestly get where you're coming from, Pete, and he has to look out for himself in the end of the day, right? But I also think that generalizing a fan base based off a few, and I'm not saying you're generalizing them, but I'm saying him making his opinion based off a few rotten apples, deciding to take matters into their own hands because of a precarious situation, is not enough for you to just leave your club the way you did, going on self-imposed strike and stuff like that. I don't respect that, man. And who am I? I'm nobody. I'm a nobody. I'm just here talking football, but I don't respect that from Gordon. And if I was an Everton fan, I would not be happy with him. I would not be happy with him. I'm sorry.
I think that's fair.
I think that's more than fair. One thing I'll say is whether it matters or not, I don't know. There's a lot of rumours that he's a Liverpool fan anyway. Whether he was at the club or not. He started his footballing journey at Liverpool, then went to Everton. Boyhood club or not, whether it means anything, I don't know. But yeah, you're right. He got his moment. He was very respectful to Frank Lampard, even though I think they had a falling out. You got to remember the last 3 or 4 games before he actually left the club, he wasn't even playing. He was on the bench. Like they weren't bringing him on. Because he'd already made it clear at that point that he wanted to leave. So this was before the meltdown. This was before the fans getting on his back. This was before all of the stuff that we saw, before he had then eventually left. He'd already made it clear to Frank Lampard at that point that he wanted
Can I ask you a question, Pete? Can I ask you a question, Pete? Sorry. Let's say, like, just it's a hypothetical. Let's say you, like Liverpool or Chelsea were in for Bruno Guimaraes, and he knew of their interest. Look at how you're flying now. You're in a cup final, etc., etc. If he told you now that he wanted to leave, do you think that he's doing the right thing by your club, unsettling the team at this stage of the season?
No, look, I'll give you a case in point. We had the same thing with Johan Cabaye years ago when Arsenal came in for him, and he said he wanted to leave, and we kept him, and we put our foot down and said, you know, you will get your move, but not right now. You get your head down, you get focused, you play for us, and stuck to our guns. Look, Everton could have done that. Everton could have said, you know what, you're not going to move. We'll give you a move in your summer, but you get your head down. You keep Everton in the Premier League, and that's your focus. But they didn't. So we can argue about Gordon, and we can say, oh, he might have not handled it very well. Everton accepted the bid. Everton let him go. Everton collected the cash and didn't sign anyone off the back of that.
I think
that cannot then be Gordon's fault. We could argue that he hasn't handled it well, and there might be elements of it that Everton won't be happy about. Yeah, there's probably elements that if it was the other way around, it was Bruno, that maybe we wouldn't be happy about. I get it. It's a part of football. We've experienced it before as Newcastle fans. Everton are experiencing it now. When you're down there and you're looking like you're in a relegation scrap, there are players that will fight for you, but there are players that see themselves away from the club. We had it when we got relegated in 2009. We had Shay Given do exactly the same. He jumped ship to Man City, who were on the rise. That he left us. He was our number one goalkeeper for 10 years. And he got off. He left the club. He wanted out. Like, he left us when we were in the scrap. So we've been there before. I've been there. I've seen it. You know, we have 14 years of players coming here, coming to the club, making a name for themselves, and then fucking off. We've had it. So I get it. So for me, because I've seen it and I've experienced that with so many players over the years, I don't care. I'll be honest with you. I'm being brutal right now.
Fair.
I genuinely don't care because there's nothing that you can say to me, whether it's Toes, whether it's Potts, whether it's anyone in the chat. There's nobody that can say anything to me that we haven't experienced for 14 years. Everton, they've got people on Sky from Toffee's TV moaning and crying about Everton's situation and demanding a takeover. They've had this situation for a year after spending nearly £500 million and throwing it down the drain. We had that for 14 years, and we were in a profit after 10 years of Mike Ashley, of not spending, of treating this club like a business, and throwing our best players to the wolves and just letting them go and just making money and then not spending off the back of it. Everton are crying off the back of that. You're having a laugh. They've only had it for a year. We had it for 14. Like, they expect me to feel sorry for them? No chance. You're having a laugh. They need to get back down to the Championship. Like, that's where they need to go right now. Because we've experienced it twice. Off an awful owner. They didn't care about the club. At least their owners may care about the club. They're just not investing the way that their fans want. Like, so why should I feel bad about Gordon wanting to be ambitious and wanting to come to a club that's got the trajectory of going the right way? He looked at that. You guys see that ovation he got last night from the Newcastle fans coming out. Bearing in mind that I know I was at the game earlier on in the season, like where he literally got pummeled into the ground by our Newcastle players because he stepped up to Trippier and Shaw and Botman and Pope all came in and gave him one. And basically, like we backed Trippier up, and they made I don't know if you've seen the video where he meets all the players and they kind of bring up and it's all banter.
Yeah. I've seen that.
You've seen it, and you know this is what we are. We're a band. Newcastle are a band of brothers, right? We support our own, we back our own, and we look out for each other. And what we showed Gordon last night when he came out is that he's going to be loved, that we're going to back him no matter what, that we're going to support him, because that's what we do to every single player that puts on this shirt. We back them. We might not agree with their performances all the time. We're entitled to that, but we back them as soon as they come onto the pitch. Everton haven't. They shut on him at times. And they made him feel intimidated. They made him feel uncomfortable outside of a football match. For me, that's enough for a player to leave. So I don't blame him for leaving the club. He's come to us. He might not start straight away. He's 21 years old. We'll build him into a player. How we'll get him around in the training ground and get him working. But I tell you what, we'll be speaking this time next year on this show, and we'll be talking about a very different opinion of Anthony Gordon than we are right now.
I think he's just on the player. I do think Gordon's a good prospect, man. I really do. I think he's got something about him, but I almost feel like he's in this overrated bracket now, because when you look at the price, when you look at the fanfare around him, it doesn't justify what he's produced. But you're right, Eddie Howe, he's worked wonders with players who don't even have half the talent that Anthony
I think
Gordon
you just
has.
got to look at Joe Linton and Almiron, and then I think Gordon will be fine. Yeah, Gordon will be fine.
I expect him to do well at Newcastle. He's got the capability to become a good Premier League player. He does.
The one thing I said on my show last night is that, and the nights before when we signed him, is that with all due respect, I love Jacob Murphy, his family are Geordies, but I'm sick and tired of him coming off the bench because he's just not technically good enough to be a Newcastle player in the way that we want him to be. And we have traded up. Gordon might not start initially, but he is someone that comes off the bench that gives us so much more than a Jacob Murphy with long term. And for me, that's good enough because that improves the squad.
Yeah,
it improves the squad. It gives us something else. There's no doubt he'll come off the bench against West Ham and he will give us something. And he'll be bang up for that game. And if he does something that ends up winning us the game, that's good enough for me.
Fair play, man. Listen, we need to wrap up, but we can't do that without just having a quick couple of minutes on Spurs. I must say, Toes, I laughed.
Do we have to?
I know, bruv. I know we do have to. I laughed last night so hard when Matt Doherty had to be told, bye-bye, we got to get rid of you because we can't sort this out. What a circus. What a circus. What a circus.
Yeah, it is a circus.
Explain all the situation, Toby. It went mad.
So Matt Doherty was intending to go out on loan to Atletico Madrid. to make way for Pedro Porro. Obviously, Jet Spence's loan to Rennes was confirmed as well. But Spurs had cottoned on to the fact that they have too many players out on loan. So they had reached their limit their limit in terms of players that they could loan. So we ended up terminating Matt Doherty's contract. And you know what? We already know Spurs have no plan. We already know that we are very chaotic and messy when we want to be, right? I say when we want to be. We're just
this
generally...
comment as well, though. This comment as well was what I thought of.
Yeah, but the problem there, I wish we could have got rid of both. I wish we could have terminated the contracts for both. But the thing is, Doherty's 31 years old, right? Emerson is 24 years old. Emerson is the one that looks more likely to fetch money for the club in comparison to Matt Doherty. So that's why you saw what happened. I don't think Emerson is better than Doherty, but Emerson is a better defender and has been more reliable for Conte than Matt Doherty in the crunch period of last season. Once Doherty got injured, which is why he's gonna stay. But to be honest, I'm just sick and tired of seeing Emerson's face. I'm really sick and tired of seeing
now. So
and like I don't even want to listen. Like I can be vicious sometimes when it comes to Spurs players, but I don't actually want to hate a player. Like Emerson's done nothing wrong to me. Like I'm sure he's a nice guy, but like he's such a detractor on what we're trying to do on the football pitch that I literally hate seeing him play for Spurs. I hate it. And
so
I have to blame him and I have to blame the manager that keeps playing him. But on the Matt Doherty piece, Spurs are a mess. But if our messiness means that we terminate a player's contract, that's not good enough for the club, so be it. When I saw that news, I didn't even think, oh, yeah, Spurs are messy, even though I know it. The first thing I thought was, fantastic, great. This is a player that we needed gone anyway. Who else can we terminate their contracts? Like, I want to see the contract terminated for Sanchez. I want to see it terminated for Sessegnon. I want to see it terminated for so many players. I know it's messy. I know it is, but we have too much dead wood. So for me personally, I'm not looking at that Doherty deal thinking, oh, he's gone, but Emerson stays. I don't care. Get rid of all of them. Get rid of all of them.
Do you think you had a good window?
No, I don't think we had a good window.
What would you have wanted? What positions would you have wanted in this window that you didn't get?
Centre back. We needed a centre back. We needed a centre back and a right wing back. And then what would have been a nice to have on top of that would have been a creative midfielder and a goalkeeper. Obviously, Spurs weren't going to sign four positions this window, right? But if you're going to sign two positions, it has to be two critical positions. And I only think we've addressed one critical position, which is the right wing back slot, right? They've obviously done well in the end to get Pedro Porro, but that was after weeks and weeks of bullshit, months of hearing this guy's name in the press linked to Spurs, and yet they're putting us through the ringer just to try and get his signature. Like it's unacceptable. We're leaving our business right up until the very end of the window, when in the January period where we knew we had Arsenal, we knew we had Man City twice, we knew we had Aston Villa, etc. We could have done with Pedro Porro in some of these games, and we've not had the opportunity to play him. So I'm happy that we've got a first choice right back now, but I'm not happy with the length of time it's taken. And the reason why I don't think it's been a good window for Spurs is because, like I said, only one crucial position's been addressed. We signed Danjuma, who's a good player. Danjuma is a good player, and I'm thinking and hoping he can do well at Spurs. I'm happy that he bagged his first goal for Spurs in his debut. Good. But when I look at what Spurs actually needed, what is causing Spurs the biggest problem, it's our defense. We've conceded 31 goals this season in the Premier League. We have the worst defense of all the sides in the top 10. We have the worst defense. We have a worse defense than Fulham. We have a worse defense than Brighton. And I'm talking about defensive record, not just personnel. So it's clear to see where Spurs are struggling here, right? People can talk to me about, oh no, but Son's out of form, Richarlison's injured. I get that. But when you have two players who are similar to the point I made with Liverpool, when you have two players who are predominantly left-sided and can play left and central, does it really make sense for you to then focus your efforts on bringing in another player, a third player who can play left and central, when your defense is bleeding, when you don't have a creative midfielder, right? when you don't even have natural cover now for Kulusevski because Brian Hill's been loaned out to Sevilla. Danjuma is a want. He wasn't a need for Spurs. No matter how well he does for Spurs, my opinion on that is not going to change. Like, I like the guy. As I said, I want him to do well. But when you look at what the Spurs squad needed, we didn't need Danjuma. We wanted Danjuma. So that's why I can't rate this window highly. I can't.
Fair play, man. Listen, I think Spurs. You're right, Tobes. I think Spurs. I can't believe Spurs haven't tried to sort their defense out more, and maybe they're not backing Conte. I don't rate the fullbacks. I don't rate the centre backs other than Romero, who needs somebody next to him to calm him down. Your goalkeeper's an absolute. He's dusted.
He's done.
I don't know. I just think it's worrying for Spurs, man. So top four. I know you can still get it. I understand that. But
there's still a chance. There's still a chance. I think we've got. The thing is, top four, we genuinely can still get it. Obviously, we don't know what Chelsea are going to throw at us with this Avengers style super team that they've assembled over the past couple of weeks, right? But Spurs are what, 3 points off top four, 3 points off Newcastle and Man United. I don't see us getting ahead of Newcastle. I feel like six. Is it six?
Yeah. And we've got a game in hand on you as well.
I thought it was 3 and you got a game in hand. 1 second.
No, I think it's 6. Just double check. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 6. 6 with a game in hand.
No, it's 3.
No, it's 3. It's 3. Yeah, 3. So 3, and obviously Newcastle.
It can be 6 if you win your game in hand.
Yeah, you and United got a game in hand over us, right? So, I don't see us pipping you guys for top 4 because I feel like you guys fundamentally just don't lose as many matches as Spurs and you don't concede as many goals as Spurs, right? So then I'm looking at Man United's spot and I can see Man United, they're competing across 4 competitions. Obviously, one's due to end in February. Their squad, the drop-off between first 11 to bench player is that realm that you were talking about, Potts, where the drop-off is quite drastic. And Ten Hag is having to bleed the same players over and over again. And Man United are picking up injuries. So it sort of opens up an avenue where Spurs could get top 4. But I just don't trust this team to maintain the consistency needed to do it right now. But there's an opportunity there. And when you look at how poor Liverpool are and Chelsea, will they get it right? Won't they get it right with Potter? There's still an opportunity for Spurs to get top 4. And there's actually still an opportunity for Spurs to win silverware this season. But whether this team actually can go out and have the cojones and quality to do the job in the end remains to be seen.
Fair play, man. Fair play. Listen, we're going to wrap it up there. Big up everybody for coming on. Big up everybody for being in the chat. Make sure you smash a like. We had well over 1,100 of you watching live. That is fantastic numbers. Thank you so much for joining us, and make sure that you do the honors and smash the likes and follow all these guys, man. All of their social handles are below. You can click on them and go see them and follow their content. I'm going to be back tomorrow night, but then after that, Dan Lawless is taking over because I'm on holiday.
Really?
Yeah.
Where are you going to?
I am going somewhere very nice. I don't know if I should say because it will just make you
say it then.
So I'm going for 4 days to Sri Lanka and 10 days to the Maldives.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
Yes.
I wish you'd not said anything now, boss.
Bastard.
I know.
I wish you'd not said anything, man.
I don't know what's worse, like you thinking of me like in the Maldives or you having to have Lawless control and host you all. I don't know what's worse, man. Like,
I'm gonna cook him. It doesn't matter, so it's fine.
He'll look forward to that. There is a replacement for me. You all know him very well, Lee Judges. So he will be joining the panel. So make sure that you like and subscribe, people, if you haven't done so already. This show is absolutely flying and I absolutely love to see it. And long may it continue. You guys have been absolute legends. Thank you both, and thank you to all of the guests as well that came on and had to leave to watch Manchester United. We're going to see you next time, and I will see you tomorrow night. Make sure you smash a like on your way out. We'll see you next time. Take it easy, people, and up the Arsenal. Peace.
Peace.